Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video talking about what I consider at the moment to be my top 5 favorite Criterions. From the collection that I have, I decided to choose a few from different genres, different types of movies, but just really good ones that I would recommend picking up on the sale. Since Barnes & Noble is having their 50% off Criterion collection sale this month, I figured with just a few weeks remaining I ought to pick a few that I think are really worth picking up and watching. The first one is a French film called The Vanishing. This movie follows two different characters from two different point of views. It follows a boyfriend who is on the hunt for his missing girlfriend that got kidnapped, I think about a year ago at a gas station. And the other point of view is the guy who kidnapped her. So it's quite an intriguing and interesting story. I've never seen anything like it before this one. The movie does have a little bit of a slow burn at the beginning. It takes about like 30 or 40 minutes before it actually starts going, but once it does, it's really good. It's really intense, really suspenseful. The ending is really shocking. Without spoiling anything, I'll just say it's one of the darkest endings that I've ever seen in a film, and I really think that if you're trying to branch out and watch some more foreign language films, this is definitely a must-watch. Next up is another foreign film. This one comes from South Korea. This one is Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder. If you're into murder mysteries or any of Bong Joon-ho's previous films, I highly recommend this one. This movie is actually based on a true story from an actual serial killer that was in South Korea. It's one of the best detective movies that I've ever seen. I highly recommend, especially if you're into that sort of stuff. This is a really good one, and I highly recommend it. Continuing more of the foreign films that I think are really great on Criterion, this is another French film called Eyes Without a Face. I think if you're a horror fan especially, this should certainly be one to pick up. It's a really important part of horror film history. Plus, fun fact, it inspired Billy Idol to write the song Eyes Without a Face. And it's a very disturbing film as well, especially for its time. It came out in 1960, and I still think it holds up today. It's still very creepy. It's still a very important film to watch, especially if you're a horror fan. Next is a Spanish film called Pan's Labyrinth, directed by the great Guillermo del Toro. This is a great film about a little girl who is facing all the monsters around her in reality and in her fantasy world. The thing I really like about this movie is it's not just the monsters that are monsters in her fantasy world. When she comes back into the real world, the people around her are just as monstrous as the ones in her fantasy world. It really shows the innocence of kids and the nightmare world that we as adults have created. This is Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece, and I highly recommend it. It's a very good movie. Next is Thief, starring James Caan. This movie is absolutely incredible. It's one of the best suspense films I have ever seen, and James Caan in this film plays one of the coolest characters I have ever seen. If you like heist films, this one is a really good heist film. Probably the best heist film that I have ever seen. It's really good. It's really suspenseful. James Caan does incredible in this movie, and it's directed very well. Also directed by the guy who later directed Heat, so if you're a big fan of the film Heat, this is perfect for you. And last, we have Moonrise Kingdom, directed by Wes Anderson. This is probably my favorite film that I've gotten through Criterion. I bought this as a blind buy, as I often do with a lot of the Criterion films. It was my first Wes Anderson film as well, and I'm so glad it was, because it perfectly introduced me to his style and his worlds that he creates. Everyone in this movie does an incredible job, even the kid actors, they all did awesome. If you're looking to jump into the Criterion collection but don't know where to start, I would start with this one. This one is absolutely worth your money and very entertaining. But overall, any of these movies are really good and really worth your money if you're looking to jump into Criterion. I highly recommend it. I just jumped into Criterion earlier this year. I never really looked into it much until recently, and these films have really helped me get into it and discover just how good some of these Criterion movies are. Would I spend $40 or $50 on a brand new Criterion? Probably not, but that's why they have these sales, and that's why I jump in on these sales, because they only happen 2 times a year. If you're new to Criterion like I am, I hope this helped you find some films that maybe you would look to pick up sometime. There's about a week left, I believe, in the Criterion sale. I believe it ends December 2nd, so hop on Barnes & Noble, go to your Barnes & Noble, see if you can find one of these. Highly recommend. You won't regret any of these films that I listed here today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.